Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time we're tackling a real classic, The Art of War. Now, you might
Yeah.
think this is just for, military buffs, but it's actually chock full of wisdom that applies to, well, pretty much anything.
It really is. I mean, think about it. CEOs, negotiators, even like everyday folks trying to get ahead, they all
Yeah.
study the art of war.
So before we get into all that good stuff,
Why?
let's set the stage right. We keep saying Sun Tzu, but who was this guy, really?
Well, that's where things get a little mysterious, right?
Okay.
Sun Tzu, which by the way means master son. It's more of
Mhm.
a like an honorary title than a, confirmed historical figure.
Mhm.
Some folks think he was this high-ranking general, strategist during the Warring States period in China, way back in the 5th century BC. But the thing is,
Okay.
we don't actually know for sure who wrote The Art of War.
So this book has been sparking debate for like what? Over 2,000 years. That's got to mean something.
You're telling me, imagine China back then. Constant conflict, political turmoil. It was like a pressure cooker.
Yeah, I see it.
And in the midst of all that, boom, the art of war emerges, offering strategies not just to win battles, but to navigate those messy situations.
So it's not just about like marching troops and formations.
No.
It's more about a bigger picture kind of strategy.
Exactly. It's a philosophy, a way of thinking. Sun Tzu believed the best victory
Uh-huh.
was the one you avoided altogether. It all boils down to planning, understanding your opponent, but even more so, yourself.
But that's where this whole idea of formlessness comes in, right? This Taiji thing, like being adaptable like a chess grandmaster.
Bingo. Taiji. It's this big concept in Chinese philosophy. It's all about being flexible, like water,
hmm
effortlessly flowing around any obstacle.
That always seemed counterintuitive to me. You think a military strategy book would be all about, brute force.
Right. But that's what makes Sun Tzu so brilliant. Think about how often we just charge into things without really thinking it through.
Oh, all the time.
The art of war is a reminder to step back, assess, and adapt. Don't cling to a plan that's not working anymore.
Okay, so instead of forcing a specific outcome, we go with the flow, adjust as needed. But how do we actually, do that? Formlessness sounds kind of abstract.
It's about that balance between planning and flexibility. Let's say you're in a tough negotiation. By embracing formlessness, you adapt to the other person's tactics, you find their weaknesses, and you steer things your way.
Oh, I see. It's like being super observant, reacting on the fly, and using what you learn to your advantage.
Exactly. And remember, the art of war isn't about winning at all costs. It's about minimizing losses, preserving what you have. Sun Tzu understood that conflict is costly, and he valued life, not just winning.
Right, which brings us to another key idea, caution in warfare.
Yes, this is huge. Conflict should always be a last resort. As Sun Tzu said, a destroyed state cannot be restored and the dead cannot be brought back to life. Powerful, right?
It is.
We got to think about the consequences before jumping into any kind of fight.
So before we go to war, so to speak,
Huh?
we ask ourselves, is this really necessary? Maybe there's another way, a better outcome for everyone.
You got it. And that leads us to total strategy, or Quanzing. Sun Tzu was all about complete victory, but achieved in a way that minimizes those losses, saves your resources.
I'm starting to see how these ideas connect. It's about reaching your goals in the smartest, most ethical way, right? Avoiding harm whenever possible.
You're getting it. For a real-world example, think of a successful ad campaign. They don't just throw money around. They research their audience, target their message, and choose the best platform, right? They get results without wasting resources or turning people off.
It's that whole work smarter, not harder thing.
Exactly, and that applies everywhere, your career, relationships, even your hobbies. Think about how to reach your goals while using your resources wisely and avoiding unnecessary losses.
That's a lot to chew on. So we've got formlessness, caution in warfare, and total strategy. What else should we explore before wrapping up this first part of our deep dive?
One more. It ties everything together beautifully. Victory before battle, or xiansheng. Sun Tzu believed true victory was won before the fight even started.
Okay, I like where this is going. So it's about setting yourself up for success before even stepping onto the field.
You nailed it. Meticulous planning, gathering info, and picking your battles wisely. He said, victorious armies first achieve victory, then engage in battle. Defeated armies fight first, and then seek victory.
Wow, that's a powerful quote. It's all about preparation, strategizing before taking action. You're not just reacting, you're in control.
That's it, being proactive, considering your options, understanding the situation, and making smart choices. You don't want to be caught off guard.
I can see how this applies to, well, everything really, from work projects to family discussions.
Exactly. Victory before battle is all about taking that step back, assessing the situation. What are your goals? What obstacles might pop up? How do you prepare to overcome them?
It's like a more mindful, strategic way to approach life in general, not just winging it and hoping for the best.
You got it. Take control. Set yourself up for success in all areas of your life.
This has been amazing. We've gone from the mysterious Sun Tzu to core ideas like formlessness, caution in warfare, total strategy, and even victory before battle.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to uncover in the art of war.
Can't wait to dive deeper into the next layer in our next installment. Until then, folks, keep those brains buzzing and maybe start thinking about how to apply some of this wisdom to your own lives. Welcome back to our deep dive into the art of war. Last time, we got into some really interesting philosophies like formlessness, caution in warfare, and that whole idea of victory before battle.
Each one kind of builds on the last,
Yeah,
creating this framework for dealing with conflict, strategizing effectively, no matter what the situation.
exactly. And today we're going to dig even deeper into these principles, see how they play out in the 21st century.
I'm really excited to unpack strategic calculation, or Tuyen. Sun Tzu was all about thinking steps ahead, anticipating his opponent, and planning accordingly, like a master chess player.
Oh yeah, like a chess game where you're trying to outmaneuver your opponent, always thinking a few moves ahead.
You got it. But strategic calculation is more than just predicting what the other guy might do. It's about understanding their motives, their strengths and weaknesses, gathering information, scoping out the terrain, thinking about all the possibilities before making a move.
So it's not about just reacting to what's happening right now, it's about taking a bigger view, thinking about the long-term effects of each decision.
Exactly. Making calculated moves that get you closer to your goals and minimize those risks. A great example is the Battle of Red Cliffs in 208 AD, during the Three Kingdoms period in China.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one. Wasn't it like a classic underdog story, a smaller force outsmarting a much bigger army?
Exactly. Liu Bei and Sun Quan were totally outnumbered by Cao Cao's forces, but they used brilliant tactics, a surprise fire attack. They exploited Cao Cao's weaknesses and won a decisive victory, a perfect example of strategic calculation in action.
It's wild to think that these principles, written centuries earlier, were still so effective during such a pivotal battle.
That's the thing about the art of war. These ideas, they're timeless.
Mm.
They go beyond specific historical contexts and apply to so many situations.
So whether you're facing a tough negotiation at work or trying to navigate a tricky relationship, even figuring out your next career move, strategic calculation can help you make smarter, more strategic decisions.
Absolutely. But we got to remember, strategic calculation isn't just cold, hard logic. There's a human element to it, too.
What do you mean?
Sun Tzu emphasized knowing yourself and your opponent, understanding their motivations, emotions, even those cultural differences that can influence decisions.
So it's not enough to just look at the facts and figures. You have to understand the psychology of the people involved.
Precisely. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about proactive preparation, another gem from the art of war. It's all about how success is often determined before the battle even starts. It's about meticulous planning, gathering intel, and creating favorable conditions for victory.
I remember you touched on that a bit last time. It's
Yeah.
like setting yourself up for success before you even enter the arena.
Exactly. To really appreciate the power of proactive preparation, imagine you're Hannibal, that brilliant Carthaginian general, leading your army across the Alps to attack Rome in the 3rd century BC.
I've always loved that story. Wasn't that considered one of the most audacious military maneuvers in history?
It was a masterpiece of strategic planning and preparation. Hannibal studied the terrain, got intel on the Roman defenses, even trained his elephants to handle those brutal alpine conditions. By the time they reached Rome, they were an unstoppable force. They'd anticipated and overcome every obstacle.
That's insane. He didn't just react to challenges as they came up. He was ready for them.
Exactly. Most of us won't be marching across the Alps, but we can still apply proactive preparation in our own lives.
Okay, so how do we bring that ancient wisdom into the modern world? Give us some practical examples.
Think about a big project you're tackling. If you plan carefully, identify those potential roadblocks, and gather the resources you need, you're setting yourself up for success. You're not just hoping for the best, you're shaping the outcome.
That's a great point. It's about taking control, minimizing those surprises. You're not just letting things happen to you, you're shaping your own path.
And that goes for so much in life, preparing for a job interview, starting a business, even planning a trip. Investing the time up front will boost your chances of success and reduce stress and setbacks down the road.
It's definitely a more empowering approach to life rather than just going with the flow and crossing your fingers.
Right. And that leads us to another crucial aspect of the art of war, analytical precision. Sun Tzu believed careful calculation and adaptability were essential for winning. He said, "Many calculations lead to victory. Few calculations lead to defeat. How much more so for those who make no calculations at all?"
So he's highlighting strategic thinking and planning, but also being able to adjust on the fly as things change.
Exactly. The art of war is all about a dynamic approach. Recognizing that, just like life, warfare is fluid, unpredictable. It's about thinking critically, analyzing the situation, making smart choices based on what you know, and adjusting course when needed.
It's like having a roadmap, but being willing to take a detour if you hit a roadblock or find a shortcut.
That's a great way to put it. And while analytical precision might sound super logical, remember Sun Tzu also stressed intuition and understanding human behavior.
So it's not just about crunching numbers and data, it's also about trusting your gut, understanding how people tick.
You got it. Analytical precision is about finding that sweet spot between planning carefully and adapting to the unexpected, making informed decisions, but being open to new info, shifting circumstances.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from strategic calculation and proactive preparation to the importance of analytical precision. What's really striking is how all these principles work together, creating this holistic approach to handling conflict and succeeding in any situation.
And we're just scratching the surface. There's so much more to explore in the art of war.
I can't wait to dive even deeper in the next part. But before we wrap up this section, anything else you want to add about these amazing principles?
It's key to remember that even though these ideas came from warfare, they apply to all parts of life, from careers and relationships to creative pursuits and even personal growth.
That's such an important point. So as we head into the final part of our deep dive, keep those mental gears turning and start thinking about how you can apply these timeless principles to your own life. What challenges are you facing? What are your goals? And how can the wisdom of the art of war help you navigate those challenges and reach your goals? Welcome back, everybody, to the final part of our deep dive into the art of war. This ancient text has really, made me rethink how I view strategy and conflict.
Pretty amazing, right? How these principles, written so long ago, still speak to us today.
We've explored so much already, from formlessness and strategic calculation all the way to proactive preparation and that idea of analytical precision. But what gets me is how Sun Tzu blends military strategy with real philosophical depth.
He understood that war isn't just about brute force. It's about human psychology, knowing your strengths, finding your opponent's weaknesses, and, ultimately winning while minimizing those losses.
It's a powerful message, especially in a world that often seems to, prioritize aggression over diplomacy. But before we get too deep into that, what really stood out to you as we've been, unpacking the art of war?
I think what always gets me is how the art of war makes you think differently about conflict. It's not about picking fights or trying to dominate others. It's about understanding conflict itself, knowing when to engage, when to walk away, and always trying to achieve your goals in the most efficient and ethical way possible.
It's almost like he's encouraging us to be more mindful and strategic in everything we do, not just in obvious conflict situations.
Exactly. And that leads us to something we haven't talked about directly, the importance of knowing yourself. Sun Tzu really believed that self-awareness is the foundation for any good strategy.
That makes sense. If you don't know your own strengths, weaknesses, what motivates you, your biases, how can you strategize effectively or even make good decisions?
Right. It'd be like trying to navigate a maze without a map. You might get out eventually, but it's going to be a lot tougher. The art of war is all about taking the time to understand yourself. What are your values, goals, fears, blind spots? Once you know that, you can create strategies that are true to who you are and navigate life with, more purpose and clarity.
So it's about introspection as much as it is about understanding the external factors, right?
Yeah.
You have to look inward before you can effectively engage with the world around you.
Exactly. And that introspection is key for developing something else that's really highlighted in the art of war, adaptability.
We talked about formlessness, which seems like it's tied to adaptability. How does the art of war encourage us to develop that adaptability?
Well, think about it. Life throws us curveballs all the time. Unexpected challenges, changes we don't see coming, new information that completely flips the script. If we're stuck on a rigid plan, we're going to get knocked down. But if we cultivate adaptability, we become more like that flowing water we talked about, going around obstacles, adjusting our course.
So it's being open to new info, willing to change your approach, not being scared to deviate from the plan if you need to.
You got it. And that takes humility, knowing you don't have all the answers. And sometimes the best thing you can do is pause, reassess, and adjust.
It's a good reminder that sometimes the biggest victory isn't about forcing things to go your way, but about adapting to what life throws at you and finding solutions that work for everyone.
And that brings us back to the core of the art of war, winning while minimizing loss. It's not about conquering or dominating, but about finding ways to achieve your goals while preserving resources, relationships, even your own sense of integrity.
It's a pretty profound message, especially when it seems like so much of the world is focused on winning no matter what. Sun Tzu reminds us that true victory is about finding balance, understanding, even compassion in the middle of conflict.
And that's why the art of war is still so relevant today. It's a timeless guide to navigating conflict and achieving success, not just on a battlefield, but in life.
I couldn't agree more. Well, we've covered so much in our deep dive into the art of war. Any last words of wisdom for our listeners as they, go out into the world?
As you take these principles and apply them, remember, the real battle is often won not with force, but with understanding, adaptability, and staying true to your values. Think about how you can use the wisdom of the art of war to create a more strategic, fulfilling, and meaningful life. That's something to really ponder.
I love that. It's like a challenge, taking these ancient ideas and making them work for us today. Thanks for joining us on this amazing journey into the art of war. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and remember, sometimes the greatest victory is the one you never have to fight.